Chapter 606, Preparing Fragrant Bait to Catch Turtles. After reading the letter, everyone's faces were full of strange expressions. Because they all felt very disgusted. It was obvious that they were here to seize Tianhai City's territory and resources, but they were coming under the banner of humanitarian aid to help with the defense. Isn't this just trying to be both a leader and a follower? Lu Karen was young and didn't quite understand this kind of thing, and she just felt extremely indignant. They might as well just come and rob us outright. That would be better than being bandits. Why do they have to insult us? The others smiled at each other and shook their heads helplessly. Naturally, a young girl like Lu Karen, who is not yet familiar with the ways of the world, does not understand the tricks. Shokur explained to her, everyone knows about certain things, but we still have to do the superficial work. For example, according to what they say, they are just here to help with the defense. Then they can't just stand around doing nothing, can they? They need to provide the necessary supplies for the troops stationed in the area. Lu Karen rolled her eyes, so if we don't give it to them, they're just going to take it anyway? How are we going to explain that? Shokur laughed, then they'll say that we were the ones who started it, and that their people had no choice but to do it. At worst, they'll just take the supplies and apologize afterwards. If we can't stand it anymore, we attack them. They will then have a legitimate reason to fight us and say that they are defending themselves. They think they can take Tianhai City for sure, so as long as things end quickly, they will use the above reason to explain to Jiangnan region. By then, when the dust settles, Jiangnan region will be too busy dealing with the Ronin incident in Linhai City to do anything about it, and they will have to turn a blind eye and recognize their management rights in Tianhai City. Lu Karen's face turned red with anger after hearing this. Doesn't that mean that even though they are clearly robbers, they can still pretend to be good guys? Instead, we are the ones who did something wrong. Zhang Yi said indifferently, it was just an excuse in the first place. Whoever wins gets to say what is right. Give Jiangnan District a way out, so that they don't have to be slapped in the face right after the Superpower Federation is established. Jiangnan District will have no choice but to acquiesce. You don't need to worry about this stuff, it's just simple rhetoric. A simple understanding is that the three major organizations in Days City are demanding that Zhang Yi and the others surrender unconditionally. In that case, they can still retain a part of their living space and supplies for Zhang Yi and the others. Liang Yu looked at Zhang Yi, her gaze as sharp as a blade, and she was also infuriated by the shamelessness of the foreign forces in Days City. Zhang Yi, fight them. Yes, fight. Teach them a lesson. These shameless guys underestimate us, we must teach them a good lesson. Everyone was filled with righteous indignation. Zhang Yi nodded. Of course we have to fight, but the question is how. The three major alien forces in Ozawa City may be no less powerful than the previous major Al-Qaeda bases. If we refuse their proposal, they will understand that we are prepared to fight them to the end. Therefore, it is better to paralyze them a little and pretend to agree to their proposal. Yang Xinxin smiled and said, Brother, I understand. You want to let them become careless and then lure them into our trap. In the end, you will catch the turtle in the urn, right? Zhang Yi nodded approvingly. Yang Xinxin always guessed what was on his mind. We want to achieve this victory with minimal cost. That's what we're going to do. Uncle Yu said, Zhang Yi, what do we do? You arrange it. Zhang Yi thought for a moment and said, call Xiao Honglian and the others over here. Everyone is on the same side for now, and we need to involve them in this matter. The combined strength of the foreigners from the three major powers is still considerable, and they will definitely be used. As for the battle plan, Zhang Yi actually had a rough idea in his mind. After the conflict with Ozawa City, he had already been thinking about how to get rid of these guys. He had at least 3 plans in mind, but the current situation was what he wanted most. Next was to set up a trap to get these self-righteous guys to fall into it. Soon, Xiao Honglian, Xing Tian, and Qin Jingguan all arrived at Zhang Yi's shelter. This was the first time they had entered Zhang Yi's shelter. Seeing the magnificent house and feeling the heavenly living environment inside, they were extremely envious. Zhang Yi entertained them in the living room, warmly asking them to sit down, and then Zhou Kur poured them tea. Xiao Honglian, however, sensed something and eagerly asked, "Zhang Yi, is there any movement in the alien forces in Days City?" Upon hearing this, Chen Jingwan and Xing Tian also put down their teacups and their expressions became tense. Zhang Yi glanced at them and said indifferently, "You guessed it right, it is indeed about them." He briefly explained the news sent by the three major powers of Days City to them. After listening, the three of them had a shocked and angry expression on their faces. Nowadays, they do not have the capital to compete with the three major powers in Days City. Qin Jingwan swallowed and said to Zhang Yi in a pleading tone, "Boss, you won't leave us alone, will you?" Xiao Honglian coughed, blushing slightly, and said, "Lao. Boss, you have to help us make a decision on this matter." Zhang Yi. He looked deeply at Xiao Honglian. This woman is really practical, and she changes her mind pretty quickly when the going gets tough. Without haste, he took a sip of hot tea. "I have already made up my mind on this matter, and there is not much you need to do. You just need to cooperate with my actions." Indeed, with the strength of the three major Al-Qaeda organizations, their role in this operation is only a supporting one. More importantly, it is how Zhang Yi himself will go about it. The first thing to do is to paralyze the other side. We need to make them careless. We will pretend to compromise and trick them into coming to Tianhai City first. As for what to do next, I will tell you then. In the meantime, just do a good job of preparing for the defense and cooperate with me in the performance. Zhang Yi did not reveal too much about the plan to them. He had just accepted the three Al-Qaeda groups, and Zhang Yi could not guarantee their loyalty, so he still had some reservations. The three heads listened quietly and said they would resolutely follow Zhang Yi's orders. However, they still looked worried, and repeatedly confirmed with Zhang Yi that if anything happened, Zhang Yi would protect them. Zhang Yi could understand their feelings, so he made many verbal promises as an exception. In the past, he would have sneered at any verbal promises, but now that the three bases are in danger, any hint of a possibility to protect themselves is firmly grasped by them, like a straw to clutch. Zhang Yi can understand their feelings. Chapter 607 Obtaining Intelligence. The three forces in Ozawa City. After sending Zhang Yi a letter, they were waiting for Zhang Yi's reply. However, it didn't matter if Zhang Yi didn't reply to them, they had already gathered their troops and were ready to depart at any time to occupy the major resource points in Tianhai City. However, they still received an email reply from Zhang Yi after a short while. Since the email address left for Zhang Yi was shared by the three parties, they could all see the email Zhang Yi sent. To the three major powers of Days City, we received your letter today, and it is clear from your words that you are plotting to seize our Tianhai City territory's resources. On behalf of the major forces of Tianhai City, I firmly oppose this. We have the ability to protect our homeland, and we do not need outside forces to intervene. I hope you can restrain yourselves and refrain from taking any rash action. Otherwise, we will report this to the Jiangnan Regional Headquarters and let them decide this matter. If you can be good friends and good neighbors, we can offer some of our resources as a sign of friendship. Tianhai City, Zhang Yi. After reading this email, Sun Jianming and the others' faces were all twisted with laughter. Ha ha ha. Did Zhang Yi write this email? It's absolutely hilarious. He's clearly scared to death, but he's still trying to save face. Does he really think that just by bringing up the Jiangnan district, he can scare us? The email's mixture of fear and pretense was really hard to resist. Sun Jianming's contempt for Zhang Yi grew even stronger. Such a guy, as long as you scare him a little more, he will definitely give in. Chen Lianyu and Gu Hongdia's reaction after reading the email was similar to Sun Jianming's. Gu Hongdia laughed and covered her stomach, unable to straighten up for a long time. Ha ha ha, this younger brother is really cute. I've decided, after we take over Tianhai City, I'll let him be my little brother. He can tell me jokes. Gu Hongdia was laughing so hard that she was doubled over, but a dark gleam flashed in her eyes. He'd better not be ungrateful. After receiving the email, the three of them immediately started communicating in the group chat. Sun Jianming, have you seen Zhang Yi's reply? Ha ha ha. Gu Hongdai, you're killing me, I'm in a rare good mood today. This little brother is really cute. Sun Jianming, don't just focus on being cute, if he doesn't know how to behave, we'll have to take action. Gu Hongdai, I don't think we need to rush, if we can avoid fighting, we should try not to. Judging from his attitude, he's very scared, we can scare him a bit more. Gu Hongdia's eyes held a hint of meaning, and then she typed, after all, the end of the world has been so long ago, and everyone who is still alive now doesn't want to die. Chen Liangyu had just said, I also think we can talk to him again. Besides, is there a possibility that he is acting? Chen Liangyu is an extremely cautious person. He would not conclude that Zhang Yi is weak and incompetent just because of an email. A person like that could not possibly dominate one side of Tianhai City. However, they did have limited information about Tianhai City, and they were even less aware of Zhang Yi's brilliant military record. Sun Jianming frowned, then sneered, Chen Liangyu, you are being overly cautious. Whether he is pretending or not, it is a well-known fact that Tianhai City is weak. Our army will just sweep everything away as we pass through. Chen Liangyu replied indifferently, it's not that simple. We'd better talk to Zhang Yi again. If we can resolve this peacefully, no one wants to pay the price of bloodshed. Gu Hongdai looked at Chen Liangyu's words and typed quickly with her fingers. Then let's talk to him again. If we can get him to hand over his territory and resources obediently, we can let them live. People, as long as there is hope to live, will not go looking to die. Let's not push people too far. Chen Liangyu and Gu Hongdai both said the same thing, so Sun Jianming had no choice but to say, okay, let's talk to him again. But he needs to know that our patience is limited and we don't have time to argue with him here. The three of them reached a consensus and decided to communicate with Zhang Yi again. But while they were doing that, on Zhang Yi's side, top hacker Yang Xinxin had already broken through their organization's network firewall and obtained all their information. Not every organization has such a strong network security system. Tianhai City is one of the most developed cities in Huagua in terms of information technology, and even the major bases had some talented programmers working there at the beginning. However, in the neighboring city of Days, due to the siphoning effect of Tianhai City, such talents are relatively scarce. Yang Xinxin broke through their network firewall, which was like walking through a wall woven from spider webs. At the first opportunity, she brought the intelligence of the three major forces in Days City to Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi was sitting in the living room, barefoot and cross-legged on the sofa, wearing a warm yellow pajama set. A computer was on his lap, and Yang Xinxin was sitting next to him, introducing the information she had obtained. According to the current information, the scale of these three forces is not small. Although they are not as powerful as the five major forces in Tianhai City during its heyday, the gap is not too large. After all, the permanent population of Days City is also more than 8 million, and there is also an abundance of supplies. They have the space to develop their own strength. Zhang Yi's fingers scratched on the touchpad, carefully going through the specific combat power information of the three major powers. The most interesting thing was that they not only had their own internal intelligence, but also separately compiled data on the other two. This allowed Zhang Yi to gain a lot. After all, no one would clearly record the abilities and weaknesses of their leader in their own database. Sun Jianming, a power enhancer, whose ability is called. It can pierce armor and penetrate the body. In close combat, even if he is wearing heavy armor, he will be injured by him. No wonder Chen Jingguan was beaten up by him. He ignored his external defenses and went straight for the internal organs, completely restraining him. I said Chen Jingguan wasn't that useless, but if he's restrained, there's nothing he can do. Gu Hongdai, a mental ability user. Ability code, can mesmerize the mind and make people completely their own puppets. And, it's the kind of love that comes from the heart. Zhang Yi couldn't help but gasp. This ability is already perverted enough. The opponent clearly knows that he has been tricked, but because of the love, he cannot help himself and will still fall. No wonder, Zhang Yi remembered that Gu Hongdai had the most subordinates. This kind of strong control power allows her to have a large number of subordinates, and she can be called a weakened version of Yuan Kong Yi. Hey, this side also records the weaknesses of her abilities. The activation of Crimson Kiss has a distance limit. It must be within 100 meters, and the closer the distance, the stronger the effect. If you kiss directly, even a Delta-class alien will fall. Good guy, this Gu Hongdai was a professional technician in the past.